Imagine a force, an unstoppable tide, sweeping across continents, nearing the heart of a different world. And there, amidst the chaos, a line of defiance stood, a desperate stand against overwhelming odds. Then, silence. A quiet morning, revealing the cost of survival, a pivotal moment, etched forever. But what if that line broke? What if history had chosen a profoundly altered, different path? For a moment, let us journey back to a forgotten year, a fragile dawn, 732 AD. Western Europe stood on a precipice, its very future hanging by the slenderest of threads. A shadow, vast and formidable, stretched across ancient mountains, threatening all known ways. This wasn't just a skirmish, it was a fundamental clash of worlds, a battle for existence. The Battle of Tours, often remembered as a single clash, was truly so much more. It was not just about land, it was about the very soul of a nascent continent. Many believe it saved Western Europe, preserving a path that would shape our world profoundly. The stakes were immeasurable. The future of language, law, and faith hung in agonizing suspense. How, then, was such a monumental, seemingly unstoppable threat ultimately and miraculously averted? This is a tale of courage, of cunning, and of the unexpected twists of destiny. It's an epic saga, friend, one that deserves to be felt deeply, not just heard. So, draw closer now. Let us journey together into these crucial, distant days. We'll not just recount facts. We'll strive to understand the beating hearts of those who lived it, feel their fear, their resolve, their desperate hope against an overwhelming, formidable enemy. This story should linger within you, a quiet whisper long after the images fade. For in understanding their struggle, we better grasp the very foundations of our present world. This is the story of the ultimate stand, a defining moment against an encroaching, mighty empire. Join us as we explore how this monumental threat was averted in the chapters to come. After the prophet's passing, a new power stirred in the desert heartlands. A dream, ignited by faith, began to spread. Kingdoms fell, frontiers shifted. The young caliphate, fueled by fervor, swept across lands like a swift, unyielding river. It wasn't merely land they sought, it was a vision, a way of life, carried forward with unwavering conviction. Their gaze turned west, across the vast, sun-baked stretches of North Africa. A new chapter began. Cities that had stood for centuries, bastions of old empires, now saw new faces, new prayers, new laws. The Umayyad presence solidified, weaving itself into the very fabric of these ancient, diverse lands. They were here to stay. The momentum was palpable, a growing force that seemed to defy the very limits of geography and human endeavor. From Egypt's fertile banks to the Maghreb's rugged coast, the crescent banner advanced, ever westward, ever onward. Centuries of local traditions met this new tide. Some resisted fiercely, others found new purpose within its embrace. The vastness of their burgeoning empire was clear, stretching like a golden thread across a third of the known world. Then, the narrow gap, the Pillars of Hercules, a legendary crossing, beckoning towards a land unknown, yet desired. Tariq ibn Ziyad, a name whispered through time, led his forces across. Spain awaited, unknowingly at a precipice. The Visigothic kingdom, weakened by internal strife, presented a tempting, vulnerable prize. Destiny seemed to call. They were disciplined, swift, and emboldened by faith. This was more than conquest. It was a sacred journey. The first steps on Iberian soil. A gentle breeze carried whispers of change, of an empire's irreversible expansion. The clashes were swift, decisive. The Visigothic defense, though valiant, crumbled under the relentless, organized assault. Fortress after fortress fell. Their military prowess was unmatched, a testament to strategy and unwavering courage. Across the peninsula, the change was dramatic. Old structures made way for new, as an era concluded. The cultural tapestry shifted, enriched by new ideas, sciences, and a vibrant, flourishing intellectual tradition. Conquest brought not just rule, but also a complex blending of lives, traditions, and the relentless march of time. The speed of their advance was breathtaking. Years, not decades, saw vast territories brought under their control. Their armies were a well-oiled machine, driven by a unity of purpose, an unstoppable force born of faith. They built, they created, they innovated. This was not merely destruction, but the planting of new seeds. The road to Europe lay open. The perceived inevitability of their advance cast a long, foreboding shadow. From the southern coasts to the formidable Pyrenees, the crescent banner now claimed dominion. Europe held its breath. The sheer vastness of their empire was astounding, stretching from Indus to the Atlantic. A truly global power. Europe, fragmented and fearful, watched this formidable, rapidly expanding force with growing trepidation. What would come next? The very identity of Christendom, its future, seemed to hang precariously in the balance. A quiet, profound dread. Two worlds stood poised, one pushing, one resisting. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shape history. The unstoppable tide had reached its farthest shore, but what lay beyond the horizon, only time would tell. Imagine Europe then, a patchwork quilt, not of nations, but of struggling, separate, often forgotten peoples. The 8th century dawned, a time when old empires crumbled, and a new, formidable shadow stretched westward. The Frankish lands, a collection of disparate tribes, struggled for unity, barely a kingdom by modern understanding. Their borders were fluid, their defenses weak. A constant whisper of vulnerability hung in the chilling air. Life was hard, rooted in the earth. Survival was a daily prayer, a constant, quiet battle. Amidst this uncertainty, a man emerged. Not king, but a force, a very different kind of leader. He was Charles, the mayor of the palace. Not a monarch, but the true power behind a fading throne. His gaze wasn't fixed on crowns, but on something far greater, the very future of these lands. He saw a fragmented people and dreamt of forging them into a single, unbreakable shield. For survival, a unified Frankish kingdom was not a luxury. It was a desperate, burning necessity. He began to build, brick by arduous brick, the very walls of Europe's last, desperate hope. Far to the south, an empire bloomed, vast and vibrant, propelled by faith and an unstoppable will. Their reach was breathtaking, sweeping across continents with a speed the world had seldom witnessed. While Franks wrestled with mud and fractured loyalties, the Umayyads built cities of light. Their armies, seasoned and vast, seemed an unstoppable tide, a force of nature itself. Against this titan, Charles offered not wealth or grandeur, but unwavering, quiet determination. His force was nascent, still forming, hardened by struggle, but bound by a growing, shared purpose. The great mountains, ancient guardians, now stood as Europe's fragile, final natural border. Across the Pyrenees, the crescent moon flew. A new, powerful civilization had taken root, and beyond, the rich lands of Gaul beckoned. The next inevitable step seemed tragically clear. Here stood Charles, a bulwark of flesh and iron, guarding what remained, what could be saved. His kingdom, however fractured, became the very last line, the desperate, final stand. The weight of an entire continent's destiny rested squarely upon his broad, formidable shoulders. What hung in the balance was not merely territory, but a way of life, a very soul. The shadow lengthened, a tide slowly, inexorably, creeping across the land, threatening all. Western Europe, as we understand it, stood at a precipice, its very identity poised to vanish. But Charles, with quiet resolve, would not yield. He would meet the shadow, head-on. He knew the stakes, felt the immense pressure, yet his will remained unyielding. A beacon, the gathering storm was upon them. They would stand and fight for every single tomorrow. This was Europe's last bastion, forged in necessity, standing firm against an overwhelming, advancing tide. Life here, in Aquitaine, felt eternal, bathed in the soft morning light. A fragile peace, soon to be shattered. For generations, this land had sustained them, its rhythms unbroken. They knew little of distant threats. Innocence, perhaps, blinded them to the shadows lengthening on the horizon, a dangerous calm before the storm. Yet, unsettling whispers had begun to travel, like embers carried on a rising, anxious breeze. These were not just rumors now. They were accounts of a vast, formidable host approaching their borders. The Umayyad forces, having swept through Iberia, now looked north, their gaze fixed on Aquitaine. Their reasons were clear: the allure of Frankish riches and the unstoppable momentum of conquest. This was more than a raid. It was an expansion, threatening to engulf everything they held dear. Leading this mighty host was Abd al-Rahman al-Ghafiqi, a man of unwavering resolve and immense experience. His army, hardened by campaigns, moved with a single, fearsome purpose. Like a relentless desert wind, they were driven by more than orders, a sense of destiny, a fervent belief in their righteous advance. The borders crumbled swiftly. Aquitaine, unprepared, now faced a storm of unprecedented fury. Homes turned to ashes, fields trampled, the once peaceful lands now echoing with terror and despair. Families scattered, their lives uprooted in an instant. This was the harsh reality of conquest. Odo, a proud duke, rallied his men, but the sheer scale of the invasion was simply overwhelming. His warriors, brave though they were, found themselves against an unstoppable tide, a force beyond their imagining. City after city fell, their ancient walls proving no match for the invaders' might and fervor. The cultural treasures of Aquitaine, centuries of faith and learning, were now desecrated, lost to the flames. A profound sorrow settled over the land, a heavy blanket of loss, chilling the very soul. For al-Ghafiqi, this devastation was simply the cost of progress, a necessary step towards a grander vision. His forces moved with chilling efficiency, each conquest fueling the momentum for the next target. Odo watched his beloved Aquitaine crumble, his forces decimated. He was losing everything. His pride, his independence, now seemed a small price if it meant saving his people. In the depths of despair, a terrible, yet inevitable, thought began to form in his mind. He had only one recourse, one desperate gamble, one hope to salvage his shattered realm. It meant reaching out to his fiercest rival, the formidable Charles Martel, leader of the Franks. A humbling act, born of utter necessity. Pride had to yield to a greater, existential threat. His envoy carried not just a message, but the very fate of Aquitaine, perhaps even all of Gaul. The journey was fraught with peril, yet the desperate need propelled him forward through the darkness. Here, in the heart of Frankish lands, a new chapter of this unfolding, grave drama would begin. Martel listened, his sharp mind weighing every word, every implication of Odo's desperate appeal. He saw beyond the old rivalries, recognizing the profound existential danger looming for all. This was not merely Aquitaine's fight. It was a threat to the very soul of Western Christendom. He knew haste could lead to disaster. A hasty charge would only invite ruin, as Odo had discovered. Martel understood that victory required meticulous planning, not just courage, but strategic brilliance. He would not rush. He would gather his forces patiently, deliberately, preparing for the ultimate confrontation. From across the Frankish lands, from Burgundy and Alemannia, warriors began to answer his summons. These were not just soldiers, they were sons, fathers, brothers, leaving everything to defend their world. Martel felt the gravity of this moment, a burden heavier than any crown, a stark, defining challenge. He watched them gather, a growing tide of resolute men, each holding a piece of Gaul's hope. Many sensed this was more than just another battle. It felt like a crossroads in the very fabric of time. His presence, his calm resolve, instilled confidence, weaving disparate tribes into a united, formidable force. While the invaders reveled in plunder, Martel honed his weapon, forging an army ready for destiny. The storm had gathered, the stage was set. The ultimate confrontation, a clash of civilizations, was now inevitable. The world held its breath then, as two titanic forces unknowingly drew closer, destiny whispering. From the south, like an unstoppable tide, came a force of conviction and conquest. These were the warriors of Islam, their empire stretching further than any had dared dream. Their victories were legendary, their confidence unwavering, each conquest fueling the next, echoing. Through Aquitaine they swept, a whirlwind, villages silenced, harvests taken, treasures gathered. The weight of their plunder, though sweet, perhaps slowed their relentless, eager march. They were magnificent, yet perhaps, just perhaps, they were stretched a little too thin. Their cavalry, truly superb, was their spearhead, a swift, devastating force on open ground. But in the north, another spirit stirred, a man who understood the earth's quiet wisdom. Charles, the Hammer. He knew the land, its contours, its secrets, intimately. He chose his ground with the precision of a master craftsman, a strategic, deliberate choice. High ground, always high ground. A shield against the rush, a watchful sentinel. And the woods, oh, the ancient woods, they would embrace his men like an old friend. For in these tangled thickets, the swift hoof of the horse would find no easy path. This was a place where foot soldiers, with their shields and spears, could stand firm. He forced them to leave their open spaces, to fight on terms not of their choosing. Then they saw each other, two vast oceans of humanity poised on the edge of fate. A hush fell across the fields, broken only by the wind, carrying whispers of destiny. Their eyes met across the valley, each army sizing up the other. A chilling assessment. Days turned into nights, a week of waiting. A silent, psychological war began. They probed, they feigned, they watched for weakness. A terrifying, patient dance. Skirmishes erupted, small flashes of violence, testing the waters, the enemy's resolve. Charles knew their spirit must not falter. That resolve was as vital as sharpened steel. The Umayyad generals, too, must have felt a prickle of unease, facing this defiant stand. A cold dawn, mist rising from the valley, shrouding the armies in a ghostly veil. The tension grew thick, heavy in the air. A palpable dread, yet also anticipation. Faith, a powerful shield, strengthened spirits, a quiet prayer on every trembling lip. Across the field, devotion too, bound men together, facing an uncertain, daunting morrow. He carried the weight of a continent, a civilization, on his broad, weary shoulders. The air crackled with unspoken thoughts, with the raw energy of two worlds about to collide. Each sunset brought the inevitable closer, the final, desperate act on this ancient stage. Shields polished, spears sharpened, a quiet readiness settled over the Frankish host. The Muslim cavalry, chafing at the delay, longed for the wide plains, their natural arena. Charles's cunning forced them to fight his way, negating their greatest sweeping advantage. Whispers traveled on the wind, fragments of song, prayer, and nervous laughter, intertwining. Commanders strategized through sleepless nights, calculating odds, seeking any slight edge. He knew this wasn't just a battle. It was a defining moment, a pivot of history. As the final dawn broke, a palpable sense of gravity enveloped the waiting, silent fields. Two mighty forces, two distinct destinies, stood ready, locked in a chilling embrace. Hearts pounded like war drums, a silent symphony of fear and fierce, desperate courage. For a week they had waited, a long, agonizing pause before the world changed forever. The air itself seemed to vibrate, charged with impending doom, with momentous decision. The wait was almost over, the breath held, the unspoken question hanging heavily. What would unfold on this fateful ground? History was about to be profoundly, violently etched. The morning mist lifted, revealing a world poised on a knife's edge. Two titans, staring across destiny's chasm. Hearts beat like war drums, a quiet, primal rhythm. They stood, not for glory, but for what lay behind them. And opposite, a tide of steel and faith, confident in their advance, ready to sweep all before them. Then, the silence broke. A roar, a surge. The Islamic wave crashed, a terrifying force unleashed. Arrows whistled, a song of death, seeking any exposed flesh. Yet, the Franks stood, unwavering under the onslaught. The first impact, a thunderous, bone-jarring blow. Horse and rider met an impenetrable, disciplined forest of shields. Shields groaned, but held firm. Each man a single, steadfast brick in a living, breathing fortress. Again they charged, and again, a relentless torrent against a rock-solid dam. The ground trembled. Discipline, that was their anchor. Each man knew his place, his duty. His brother beside him, they were an organism, moving as one, breathing as one. An ironclad promise to hold the line. The horsemen, accustomed to open charges, found no purchase. This wall would not shatter, not today. Through the gaps, brief, precise thrusts. A grim ballet of survival and defiance, repeated endlessly. Hours passed, marked by the clang of steel and shouts. The Franks, though weary, were still there. Amidst it all, Charles, a towering figure, his presence a beacon in the storm, a warrior king. His axe sang a brutal melody, a relentless rhythm of defense and decisive, shattering blows. They saw his fury, felt his unyielding spirit. It was infectious, a courage that fortified every heart. Each strike, a hammer blow, each parry, a resolute anvil. They would call him Martel, the hammer. As day wore on, exhaustion gnawed. Yet the shield wall stood, a testament to raw, stubborn will. A moment's breath, a fragile calm. But the battle was far from over. Destiny still held its breath. Then, a ripple, a faint whisper of fear. Growing louder, something shifted behind the Saracen lines. A rumor, perhaps, or was it more? A shadow of doubt creeping into the hearts of the warriors. While the main force fought, a different kind of war began elsewhere. A whisper of brilliant cunning, smoke, a dark plume on the horizon. The dreaded truth, their wealth, their homes, were under attack. The lure of family, of riches, proved too strong. Loyalty fractured. The main assault began to crumble. Their mighty hammer, now fragmented. A critical diversion, a moment of weakness, fate's cruel turning point. The Franks saw it, felt it. A surge of hope, a sudden, primal surge of renewed, savage energy. Martel, ever the tactician, gave the order. Press them, push them. The tide had truly turned. From staunch defense to relentless attack. The shield wall, now a battering ram, seeking every open wound. Panic spread like wildfire. Friend collided with friend. The once fearsome army, now a swirling, desperate eddy. Their leader, Abd al-Rahman, rode frantically, a lone voice crying into the gale, trying to salvage. But the fear was too deep, the chaos too absolute. His words dissolved, unheard, into the tumult. The Frankish axes found purchase now, where before only shields stood. The slaughter became terrible. Amidst the horror, a critical moment. Their leader, thrown from his mount, exposed and vulnerable, a blur of steel, a final gasp. Abd al-Rahman fell, his life bleeding into the cold, European earth. The news, though slow to travel, extinguished any lingering spark. Their guiding light was gone forever. The retreat became a rout, not a strategic withdrawal, but a desperate, headlong flight from despair. They watched them go, these invaders, a sense of weary victory settling over the blood-soaked field. Then, silence. A heavy, somber quiet descended, broken only by the whispers of the dying. Martel stood, not in triumph, but contemplation. The cost of victory, etched on every weary face. The trembling hands, the aching limbs. They had held the line, but at what immeasurable, agonizing price. Night fell, drawing a veil over the day's savagery. A new dawn awaited, shaped by this bloody stand. Amidst the fallen, quiet prayers, a human touch, a gentle lament for lives extinguished too soon. The smoke still curled, a distant marker of the pivotal moment that changed everything on that fateful day. Tours, a name whispered through centuries. The hammer had indeed fallen, shaping the very soul of Europe. As the last echoes faded, a profound stillness settled upon the blood-soaked field. Night began to fall. But this wasn't peace. It was a holding breath, a collective pause, fraught with an anxious fear. They held their ground, a silent vigil against an unseen foe. Was this a trick, a cunning snare? The enemy's silence was unnerving, a heavy blanket draped over the vast, uncertain plains of Gaul. With the first pale light, an unbelievable sight met their weary eyes. The enemy camp was gone. No tents, no campfires, no sounds of movement. Only the trampled earth remained, bearing witness. A retreat? A ruse? The cunning of war often played tricks on even the most seasoned commanders. The tension slowly began to recede, replaced by a deep, quiet wonder. Could it truly be over? The chilling silence of the night had yielded to the stark revelation of dawn. The storm had passed. But the aftermath, that was a storm of its own kind, demanding a different sort of strength. Before them lay the grim ledger of war, etched in blood and sacrifice. Each life, a story lost. The ground was littered with the fallen, silent witnesses to the fierce clash of two mighty worlds. Dawn broke, painting the terrible truth in stark, unforgiving light. The full horror was finally unveiled. They walked among the wreckage, counting the cost, a heavy burden settling upon their victorious hearts. The sheer scale of Umayyad losses confirmed the depth of their retreat. A devastating blow had been struck. Victory, yes, but at what an unbearable price. The field whispered tales of unparalleled bravery and loss. He knew this moment. The profound stillness after the storm, when the true weight of events settled. This was the undeniable proof. A victory of immense proportions, securing the heartland of Francia. Yet, even in triumph, Martel's wisdom prevailed. Prudence often guards the hard-won spoils of war. Martel, with a heavy heart and a clear mind, chose prudence over impulsive pursuit. His army was weary. To chase a retreating, unpredictable enemy risked further, unnecessary losses. Their strength needed to be preserved. He secured his position, ensuring the safety of his people and the future of his realm. A wise leader knows limits. The full magnitude of what transpired here would unfold slowly, echoing through centuries. History paused, then continued. The echoes of that day at Tours, they don't fade, do they? They shape so much. It was here, wasn't it? The great wave, the powerful surge, met its enduring shore. Western Europe, fragile in its youth, found a breath, a moment to truly become itself. From the sun-drenched lands of Iberia, the momentum had been truly formidable, relentless, unstoppable, and the Frankish spirit, still nascent, was given the precious space it needed to blossom. So delicate, so new, this burgeoning identity, Tours helped guard its very precious existence. From this preservation bloomed something grand, the powerful, unifying spirit of the Carolingian Empire. A foundation was laid for Charlemagne, a giant who would forever etch his name across our lands. And in time, the very roots of what would become the revered Holy Roman Empire were set. Imagine the culture, the songs, the stories, all quietly taking their distinctive Western form. The political landscape too, the way power flowed and laws were made, was profoundly shaped. Our spiritual path, the very fabric of belief, was woven into a distinct, enduring pattern. It truly set Europe on a trajectory, a unique course it might not otherwise have traversed. Of course, historians gently debate its absolute, singular impact. History is rarely simple. My friend, was it the only moment? Perhaps not. Life's tapestry is woven with countless threads, yet its deep significance, its role as a monumental pivot point, remains utterly undeniable. A quiet turning of the tide, a moment when possibilities shifted, altering destinies profoundly. And so, Europe found its enduring path, its unique journey through the long corridor of time. One can't help but wonder, can they? What if Charles Martel had truly failed? A profoundly different Europe might have emerged, a world we can only dimly imagine now. It's a heavy thought, isn't it? The weight of moments, shaping all that followed. From that single, pivotal battle, so many seeds were planted, growing into what we see. The echo of Tours, a quiet whisper across the centuries, still resonates deeply within us. Here, where the mist hangs heavy, echoes of long-ago choices still whisper through the very stones. Tours in 732, a name etched not in glory alone, but in the silent turning of Europe's path. Imagine a tapestry unraveling. Western Europe, a vibrant weave of cultures, nearly took a different thread. The collision of worlds, then. A moment that shaped art, law, and the very spirit of our lands. This battle, a distant rumble, helped forge the identity of nations we now call home, quietly. For without that stand, the future of a blossoming civilization might have been rewritten entirely. A profound thought. The faith, the traditions, the gentle rhythms of life we recognize, all hung in a delicate balance. History rarely shouts its what-ifs, but Tours silently, profoundly, shifted the course of centuries. A single ripple in the stream of time, yet its effect still touches our shores today, remarkably. And so, our journey through 732 draws to its quiet close. But history beckons still. What other forgotten moments, what crucial turning points do you believe deserve our heartfelt gaze? If this story resonated, please share a gentle like to show your thoughtful appreciation. Subscribe, friends, to join our growing circle, where history's whispers find a warm, listening ear. And share this tale, let its quiet power reach others, expanding our collective understanding. Together,